right, 6.3. All right, really quick, just going over what we covered for reference angles. Looking at the reference angles, depending on the quadrant it's in, determines how you're solving for the angle you have to find, okay? Just a reminder, this is the angle they're giving me. This is my reference angle. It has to make that 90-degree angle, okay? So if it's in quadrant 2, you're doing 180 minus the angle that's given. Okay, looking at if it's in quadrant 3, for this one, you're going to take the angle and subtract it from 180. So in this case, this is the angle they're giving me. I can't make a 90-degree angle from this. So I'm going to take the angle that's given, minus 180, and that's going to be my reference angle. And then same thing with quadrant 4. If it's all the way around, this is going to be my reference angle, and I'm subtracting it from 360. All right, we're going to go ahead and finish these examples. So the first one I did yesterday was a little bit on the longer side, just because I wanted to show you guys every step. The second one, I kind of did it on the coordinate plane, so I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for these. I'm going to do the work within the graph, so it doesn't look all spread out. Still following the same steps. So this one I have is tan 300, and where would 300 fall on my graph? So if I'm looking at it, I'm just going to go ahead and just write a rough sketch just so I can have space. I have 0, I have 90, I have 180, I have 270, and this is back to 360. I know 300 is going to be in quadrant 4, so I'm just going to go ahead and do a rough sketch of quadrant 4, just so I could have space to solve my work. So again, I have 0, 90 was up top, 180, 270, and 300 is somewhere right here, okay? I need to find the reference angle. 300 goes all the way to this line, and my reference angle is right here in purple. This is what I'm trying to find. So in order for me to find that remaining angle, I'm going to go ahead and solve 360 minus 300, and that's going to give me 60 degrees. Now that's my reference angle. This angle is 60 degrees. And then I'm going to just go ahead and draw that right angle. And now I have a special right triangle, 30, 60, 90. So because I have a 30, 60, 90 triangle, I'm trying to solve for tan 300. I'm going to label my sides. Opposite of 30 is A. Opposite of 60 is A times the square root of 3. And opposite of 90 is 2A. Make sure you guys remember those rules. Now, according to angle 60, the opposite is A times the square root of 3. According to angle 60, my A is my adjacent side, and 2A is my hypotenuse because it's opposite the 90-degree angle. Keep in mind, it's according to the angle determines your adjacent and your hypotenuse, adjacent and opposite side. So, I know tan is opposite over adjacent because I know the rule for SOHCAHTOA. So just writing it right here, I have SOHCAHTOA, and tan is opposite over adjacent. So now I'm going to go ahead and look. My opposite side is A times the square root of 3 over my adjacent side, which is just A. If I simplify this, I'm going to get the square root of 3. Okay, almost done. One more step. I need to determine, is it positive or negative? So if I were to draw my quadrants, all students take calculus, and in quadrant 3, the only one that's positive is cosine and secant. Tan is not cosine or secant, so in that case, my answer is going to be negative. So for this one, for tan 300 degrees, my answer is negative square root of 3. All right, going ahead and looking at the next one, cosecant 390, still doing the same thing. If you want to draw, again, a rough sketch of your coordinate plane, right here, I have 0, 90, 180, 270, 360, and this would be, plus 90 would be 450. So where would 390 fall? It's going to fall somewhere in quadrant 1. So again, just doing a rough sketch of quadrant 1 right here. Okay, 390 is going to be somewhere in quadrant 1, so something like this. And then I need to determine what that reference angle is. So 390 goes all the way around, and it goes right here. I need to find this reference angle. So what I'm going to do is 390 minus 360, and that's going to be 30 degrees. So this is 30 degrees right here, drawing that right triangle, and I have a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Labeling that 30, 60, 90, opposite of 30 is A. Opposite of 60 is A times the square root of 3. And opposite your 90-degree angle is 2A. Now looking at it, I know I'm dealing with cosecant. And let me just label according to this. According to angle 30, this is my opposite side. This is my adjacent side. And this is my hypotenuse. Cosecant is the inverse of sine. So this is going to be hypotenuse over opposite. So writing it out, I'm going to have 2A over A. My A's simplify, and I'm going to get 2. Now I have to determine, is it going to be positive or negative? And if it's in quadrant 1, all of it's positive. So my answer would just be 2. Just a reminder, how do I know cosecant's hypotenuse over opposite? I'm just going to write it out. Okay, so we remember it. We have so, ka, toa, that gives me my sine, which is opposite over hypotenuse, that's so, cos cosine equals adjacent over hypotenuse, and tan is opposite over adjacent. So if you know SOHCAHTOA, you know the rules. Now, opposite of sine, the inverse of sine is cosecant, which is now hypotenuse over opposite. Inverse of cosine is secant, which is hypotenuse over adjacent. And inverse of tan is cotangent, which would be opposite over adjacent. So once you know that, you should be able to know what goes where according to the triangle that you have. Let me go ahead and change that one. This is going to be adjacent, adjacent over opposite. All right, going ahead and looking at the next one. This one's secant and negative 150, thank you. Looking at it, if you have a negative, you have to go ahead and make it positive first. So how would I make this positive? I'm going to add 360. So I'm going to go ahead and first thing is add 360. So 360 minus 150, and that's going to give me 210. So you could write it as we're trying to find secant of 210. And then I'm still doing the same process, okay? Make it positive, find the angle, find the reference angle, and all of that fun stuff. So let's go ahead and try this one. 210, what quadrant would 210 fall in? Quadrant 3. So I'm going to go ahead and make that rough sketch of my quadrant. Okay, keep in mind, let's just say this is, again, rough sketch of 210. This is where 210 is. And I have to go ahead and find this angle. So how would I find this angle? I'm going to go ahead and do 210. God bless you, minus 180. And that's going to give me 30 degrees. So I know that this is a 30-degree angle. Drawing that right triangle on the x-axis, and I know I have a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Labeling my 30, 60, 90. Opposite of 30 is A. Opposite of 60 is A times the square root of 3. And opposite of 90 is 2A. Okay? Again, looking at it according to this angle that now I have in green, I have my hypotenuse. I have my opposite side, I have my adjacent side, and I'm looking for secant. So we kind of wrote down secant. Secant is opposite of cosine, and that's going to be hypotenuse over adjacent. Okay, my hypotenuse is 2a over a times the square root of 3. My a's simplify, they cancel each other out. Multiply by the square root of 3. Remember, you cannot have a radical as your denominator. So I'm going to now have 2 times the square root of 3 over 3. And again, I have to determine if it's positive or negative. So all students take calculus. It's in quadrant 3. Only tan and cotan are positive. So that means this is going to be negative, and this would be my answer for secant 210. All right, looking at the last one, I have cotangent negative 225 degrees. So because it's negative, first thing I'm going to do is subtract it from 360. So 360 minus 225, it's going to give me 135. So now I'm using cotan of 135 degrees. And where would 135 degrees fall? On what quadrant? This second quadrant. Okay, so here's a rough sketch of my second quadrant. About 135 is right here. Okay, now I have to go ahead and find this reference angle. In order for me to find that reference angle, I'm going to do 180 minus 135, and that's going to give me 45 degrees. So labeling my triangle, I have a 45, 45, 90 triangle, and I have to remember those rules. My two, it's like an isosceles triangles, these are both A. And opposite of my 90-degree angles, A times the square root of 2. Okay, I have my opposite side, I have my adjacent side, and I have my hypotenuse. Okay, I'm dealing with cotangent, and that's going to be adjacent over opposite. So adjacent is A over A, which simplifies as 1. And now I need to determine if it's positive or negative. All students take calculus. In quadrant 2, it's either sine or cosecant is positive. So yes, this would be negative. And in this case, your answer is -1. All right, please make sure you guys practice this and study it. There's practice on Canvas for 6.3.